Hi, this is Evan here from the Latinum Institute, and we're going to continue with our handwriting series. The first letter that we looked at was the letter I, which is formed in the following way: light up, dark down, flick away. And the second letter that we looked at is the letter S. Make a J, touch the back line, flick away. We're now going to look at the letter T. Now the letter T in cursive is quite a tall letter. In printed books it's short, but in cursive it's tall. It's related to the letter I. So we form an I, but we go up much higher, and then we come down on the same line, and then we flick forwards like so. That's the basis of our letter T. Now notice a couple of things. Notice that at the top of the letter T here, the line goes up and down on top of itself. So we're going up and we're coming back down on the same line in this part at the top. And also notice the height. It's quite high. The reason why it's quite high is that we have to cross the T, and the crossing of the T will be at the same height as the dot on the I, so it'll occur about here on the T. So we need to have quite a lot of height on our T. So to make a T, we are forming the same stroke as an I, but we're going up high. We come down on the same line, we come down straight, and at the very bottom we curve and flick forwards, and then we cross the T like so. So let's do this again. Straight down, flick. It's not crucial that you come down at the top here on the same line, but it is more elegant if you come up and down on the same line. If you have a small space here, so essentially you've just made a very large I. And then we have that, and we cross our T. The length of the cross line is up to you, how you decide to do it, whether it's short or long. So to recap, we have IS, and now we have another extremely common word, and when we do the I and the T next to each other, you can see the difference in height quite clearly. I, T, it. And as you can see, to remind you again what's happening here, we're going up and we're coming down again on the same line. So we're going up here, and then we come down again on the same line in this section of the T at the top. So I, S, T, I, S, T, T, S, I, and a word that actually exists, S, I, and T, sit. So we have three words. We have sit, sit, and notice, and I'll stress this again because beginning students have trouble with this idea, that your T is quite tall. Compare it with the I. It's pretty tall. Right? So S, I, T. Now you need to practice this, and what you can do before you start crossing your T is simply practice doing this. Come down on the same line, come down on the same line, come down on the same line. Now, when you do this, you'll notice the importance of the exercise I was giving you before, which is the exercise of drawing lots and lots and lots of lines that are sloping the same direction. Right? It's quite hard. If you're a beginner, what you will find will happen is that your slopes will not be consistent. You will find that you're possibly doing things like this, and you may even find that you're going backwards with your slopes. This does happen. I've seen it time and time again with my students, that slope control takes time to learn. And so we have two exercises effectively in slope control here. Up, down on the same slope, cross, and then you can draw a line, and then you can go up, down on the same slope, cross, draw a line, up, down on the same slope, make your T at the bottom, draw a line, and this is a nice decorative pattern. Up, down on the same line, and there. So light up, dark down on the same line, straight as you can, and then curve at the bottom. Straight up, straight down on the same line, keep it straight, and then curve at the bottom. Straight up, straight down on the same line, and then when you get to the bottom, start your curve and flick away, and then you cross your T. The crossing takes place at the end of words. If you have two T's, then you can do this in a word. So if you have a word that has two T's, like little for example, then you can use one line to cross both T's. And if you had a word like this, straight up, straight down, just imagine this word, TST, doesn't actually exist, but you can cross all the way across like that if you wanted to. You could even do it if you had an I here and you'd have your dot floating in the middle. So the words we can form a few words at the moment. We can form a little bird called a tit. Notice that we dot and cross at the end of the word, dot first, and then we cross. That's tit. Straight down, curve at the bottom, there, sit, and I'll remind you again of the height of the T. It is a tall letter. It is almost as tall as an L. You don't think of it as a T as being one of the tall letters, but it is a very tall letter. Let's do some more of these exercises. So we start here, we go straight up, we come down on the line in a straight line, and then we curve at the bottom. Straight up, come down on the line in a straight line, and curve at the bottom. This line of the T is pretty straight. This line here, the T is a pretty straight line. As you can see, the curving is just taking place right here at the bottom. We're not doing that, right? Because if you do that, this section is too open. We're going up and we're coming down on the same slope. Once again, this is the use of doing lots of practice slopes. So if you do lots of practice strokes like this, you will have far less trouble laying two lines one on top of the other, like that. Whereas if you haven't been doing your strokes and need to make many hundreds of these, lines that are sloping forward the same way and are more or less the same distance apart as much as you can get them, and are sloping the same amount. So the letter T, straight up, straight down on the same line, curve at the bottom. Straight up, light, hard down, flick away at the bottom. Straight up, hard down, flick away at the bottom. It's better to make your T's too tall rather than too short. So I would err on the side of tallness with your T's, and you can make them very tall if you wish. Right? There's no reason, but you don't want a short T because it'll interfere with things in your writing. If it's a short T, if you made your T, for example, the same height as your I, as I'm doing here, well, we have a problem because it's down there. It's not elegant. So straight up, and then our T, the lofty skyscraper of the T, right, like so. S, T. Whether this line is perfectly horizontal or slopes up slightly, when I'm doing it on paper, I tend to be horizontal. I find that when I'm doing it on the tablet, for some reason, I have a tendency to slope up. I, T. This is a very useful exercise because the letters are differently formed and you can see the difference very clearly. Right? As you can see, you have this section at the top of the letter where the line, you're going on the same line on the way down. So your I, and you come up and down on the same line and flick away. I, T. Up, down on the same line in a straight line, and then curve your T at the bottom for the connecting stroke. And once again, the exercise that you need to do to check your letters is to get a ruler and draw lines through the strokes of your letters to see that they are more or less on the same angle. You're not going to be exactly the same. If you can get it exact, then you will have extremely beautiful writing, right? It doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to look on the same angle to your I. As you can just do some, I'm just doing a few of these things here. right? Just so you can see what you need to do at the beginning to check your lettering. So the letter T, up, down on the same line, flick away, cross. And this video was brought to you by the Latinum Institute. You can find us at Patreon. Latinum provides course materials in Latin, in Greek, in French, handwriting and Hebrew and various other topics, with many free videos on YouTube and a very large audio catalog for language learning, which is hosted at Patreon. If you want to support this YouTube channel, please do visit Latinum, Latinum, at Patreon, Patreon. And if you feel like supporting the channel, you can subscribe at Patreon and support this YouTube channel. Bye.